This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News. News-free Dixie for the 21st century.
You see, there's some interesting things out there, like the discussion is in a book called The Legacy of Ashes. It's an author who analyzed 50+ thousand CIA documents that were released about 15 years ago, 18 years ago. And the White House tapes did not originate with Nixon. They started with Eisenhower, but transcripts released of the White House tapes during the Kennedy era revealed a conversation between Robert Kennedy, McNamara, and one other person, I forget who that was, and they were saying, who knows about this, that we tried to kill Castro? He said, we could all go to a federal penitentiary behind this. They're discussing these things, and then the consensus is, well, at least one person knows, that's Fidel. He knows we tried to kill him. They said, do you think he's going to retaliate and try to get the president? He says, you mean my brother? Yes. Let's see, there's all kinds of things in there. You see, you have to listen to what's going on. Now, I had an unusual professor at one time. She was a Russian professor emeritus at the University of Moscow. She was an upstanding Soviet citizen, and she had been Khrushchev's deputy chief commissar during the Stalingrad siege in World War II. At one time, she was the highest-ranking woman on the Soviet Politburo, and she had also been the highest-ranking woman in the Soviet NKVD, which is a predecessor to the KGB. The only two people she answered to were Comrade Beria, head of the Secret Service, and Comrade Stalin. Now, she taught a class at UCLA known as the Sphere of Soviet Influence in World Politics, and I was one of her teaching assistants back in the 60s. Now, all of what I've been talking to you about was laid out rather interestingly in some things that she was telling me back then. Reagan, for example, is given credit for causing the Russians to bail out of the Cold War and for causing Gorbachev to start talking about perestroika and glasnost. Well, she let me read a translated paper in 1968 that Comrade Lenin wrote in 1919, and he said Russia can become a democracy only when there are no significant numbers of live Russians that have a living memory of their slaves under the Tsar, of their enslavement under the Tsars. And he predicted that this would happen in the last decade of the 20th century, and it would embody the precepts of perestroika and glasnost, the very words that Gorbachev used. So Reagan didn't do this. The Soviets had a plan. And the part of it was to get the Soviet people to become accustomed to managing their own affairs, free from the paralyzing influence of too much religion, being confident in their ability to deal with the world, and having a habit of having a sense that they have something to do with day after tomorrow. So Gorbachev in 1990 starts talking about perestroika and glasnost. The Berlin Walls come down, and Berlin Wall, singular, yes it is, comes down, and they start putting their plan into play, and we, of course, our CIA doesn't look at it. well, look at the Russians, they're villains, they're against us. But like my Russian professor told me, she says, I lost 2 uncles, a brother, 3 nephews in 1919 when the U.S. government had several divisions of the United States Army occupying portions of continental Russia, trying to assist the White Army against the Red Army. You see, we invaded Russia in the 20th century. We sent, I think, 5 or 6 divisions over there. So, you know, you look at an invader and you say, these guys dropped the bomb on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. We didn't. You know, they bombed Dresden and killed 125,000 people in one night. They had 5 different raids on Tokyo where they killed more than 120,000 Japanese per raid. They had burnt out every city in Japan, starting from the biggest going down, except for 4 that they left untouched. Hiroshima, and Nagasaki were 2 of the 4 where they had pre-planned testing the atom bomb on to see what it could do, and they wanted it in a pristine condition.